Hey there everybody. We wanted to share with you one of our Easter traditions. It's Holy Week, and we usually make the Italian Easter cookies during Holy Week so that we can have them for breakfast on Easter morning. These cookies are called, correct me if I'm wrong, one of my relatives, they're called bubalagoci, or I've also heard it called bubalagoscia. I think at the end of the day means a cookie with an egg in it. But there's a significance with these cookies. These are large cookies. You can shape as hearts or as eggs, and you actually bake them with a hard-boiled egg in the middle. We decorate the cookies. We actually put dough over the hard-boiled egg, and then on Easter morning when you eat them, not only does it signify Christ, the bread of life, it also signifies the egg of new life, and taking the egg out of the cookie is the same as Jesus rising from the dead, the resurrection. The original recipe that I got from my mother, and my mother got it from my Nana, calls for 5 pounds of flour, 4 cups of butter-flavored Crisco. It actually originally was regular Crisco. My mom and I tweaked it a little bit to make it taste a little better. So, the original recipe was 5 pounds of flour, 4 cups of Crisco, 3 cups of sugar, 10 eggs, 16 teaspoons of baking powder, 3 tablespoons of vanilla, and add milk to moisten. So we've tweaked it for ourselves. My dad loved the way my mom tweaked it. My family loves the way that I do it. I am doing a half recipe. So our version, we do vanilla and almond extract. I have zested an entire orange, and I will also add the juice of the orange. To the frosting as well at the end, I add orange and almond also. So in this bowl, I have 10 cups of flour, and to that flour, we're going to add the 8 teaspoons of baking powder. Then we're going to add the 1.5 cups of sugar. This isn't a super sweet cookie, and it is very bread-like. My sister likes to call Italian cookies sugar-coated lice because they look beautiful and sweet, and then you take a bite out of them and they're really not super sweet. Again, tweaking this recipe a little bit has helped. Now I know I probably have an uncle or an aunt or two saying, your Nana is rolling over in your grave because you're sharing this recipe. I think it's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the orange zest as well. So we've got the flour, the baking powder, the sugar, and now the orange zest. In this bowl, I have the vanilla, the almond, and eggs. All the eggs. I also will add the Crisco, 2 cups of the butter flavored Crisco. So what I like to do is just start mixing it a little bit, and then I will, and I just use a fork. This is not a recipe to be done in a hand mixer. It's not how you do it. So I'm just kind of fluffing the flour. Then we're gonna start cutting in the Crisco. I do have my pastry cutter, so Kate, you wanna go ahead? And you're just gonna cut it in. You can do this just with your hands as well. And we're just gonna cut it until it's crumbs. Yeah. Pretty much. And we do take turns doing this because it's a lot of work, huh? Yeah. Now I know my Nana did not use a pastry cutter. She only used her hands. My aunt as well never used a pastry cutter. When I have the kids help, we do use the pastry cutter. We do get in there with our hands at the end because you have to slowly add the milk to moisten it. Okay, I'm also right now just gonna add the half of an orange. It's very citrusy. I wish you guys could smell this because there is nothing like the smell of the orange and the almond and butter.
It's so good.
The buttery smell. Okay. Okay, Kate, let's go ahead and get some of that off. Already, it's just starting to get doughy. And again, there's no measurement for milk. It's just milk to moisten. So you wanna make sure that you're not adding too much. Taste everything, all the raw cookie dough, even the raw meat for their meatballs. I saw them taste it. They didn't measure everything. They just did it all according to smell and taste. And I love that. but not so moist that it's like sticking everywhere. It's just enough. Everything's incorporated. Now we're gonna cover this with saran wrap and let this sit for probably an hour or so before we start rolling it out and putting them together. The dough has been sitting for about an hour. You're gonna have it sit out longer. I would put it in the refrigerator and then take it out in time for it to soften. So what I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of flour on my surface. I have bleached and scrubbed my countertop, so it's safe to use, but if you have a working mat, you can do that too. You don't want to use a ton of flour, just enough so that the rolling pin doesn't stick. And you want to roll this pretty thin, because what happens is with all of that baking powder that's in this dough, these babies rise. They rise and they cook almost like a biscuit. And it's yummy and delicious. And but they're good, thick cookies. So I don't know, I'd say I rolled that out to maybe a quarter inch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, quarter inch.
So you can either, what I always grew up doing with my mom is my mom would actually trace a large Easter egg on a piece of paper, and then we would cut around. I have this, a cookie cutter, and I have a big heart. She would also do big hearts. I'm actually just gonna kind of eyeball it. I'm gonna use a knife. I'm gonna make a big one. And just make a nice big shape. Oh, please come up, please come up. Yay, yay. Okay, so there's our cookie. If you're gonna make them big, you're only gonna get maybe 2 cookies on each pan. But you can also do smaller ones. So I have just another Easter egg. Now on the smaller cookies, I will not put a hard-boiled egg. We will just decorate them with a very simple white icing, which is just milk and powdered sugar and your extracts. I do vanilla and almond extract, and I do some orange juice. You wanna make it like a buttercream, you can make it like a buttercream. I just like to do the glaze, and you decorate it with sprinkles and usually jelly beans. But with our restrictions of going to the grocery store right now, I don't have jelly beans, so we're just using sprinkles. So I am just using a dough cutter, a ravioli cutter. I'm going to make a little pad for my egg, just using a little bit of dough, making a little pad for my egg. I'm going to choose a hard-boiled colored egg and put it right there in the middle. Then some of the thin strips that I cut, I'm just gonna make almost like a little cage. So you're just gonna continue to wrap the egg you're not using water, you're not using milk, you're not using anything to attach this. You are literally just pushing the dough within itself. You're also going to use those long strips that I made. You use this, you can kind of wind them and twirl them. So my oven is up to temperature. The temperature is 375 normally. I don't know what it is about my oven here, but I only do 365 and it seems to bake them nicer. So directions say 375, but I'm gonna tell you maybe it varies with your oven. When you're decorating the eggs, you want the dough to be thinner because you want your shapes it's gonna poof up. So actually that's the better thin size. You can use whatever cookie cutters or shapes you want. You can even just do circles and hearts, and again you decorate it with springtime looking sprinkles and frosting at the end. So we're just going to continue to make these and we'll get them in the oven, and when they come out we'll start decorating them. I put these in the oven. You could do 375 for 20 minutes, or I do 365, and I just keep my eye on it. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes. Okay, so we do have some cookies out of the oven and they're on my cooling rack cooling. Now we're gonna make the icing. It's very easy, very simple. I've got 2 cups of powdered sugar. I am going to do, again, I don't measure, I'm pretty terrible at this. I'm just gonna do a little bit of almond extract. Let's say it's maybe half a teaspoon. And then I'm gonna be a little heavier with the vanilla. Maybe a tablespoon. Orange, that other half of that orange, I'm gonna squeeze and get all of that juice out of there. This goes really well with the cookie. I'd say that's good enough. I am just gonna stir it gently. If any of you have ever made that powdered sugar glaze before, you know that a little bit of liquid can go a long way. So I'm gonna be super easy on the milk. This is already mixing up really well. You can use milk, you can use half and half, you can use whipping cream, whatever you wanna use. I even sometimes add a little sprinkle of salt, just a little bit to kind of balance out all of that sweetness. Although again, remember the cookie is not very sweet at all. I mean, it's got some sweetness, but okay. Now this is definitely, I'm not gonna add any more liquid. This is definitely the right consistency. We're gonna get all of those powdered sugar clumps out of there. You could use a kitchen mixer to do this. I just like to use a fork. It's pretty much all dissolved already. You'll notice it's very liquidy. It's not thick. We're not decorating with this icing. We're just literally gonna drizzle it. I know that's not everyone's favorite word. We're gonna drizzle it over these cookies and put sprinkles on. Again, normally you'd use jelly beans as well. I don't have any jelly beans. So I've mixed up a bunch of different sprinkles that I had. And it looks nice and fun and springy. So all we're going to do, take a spoon. I've got my cookies still on the cooling rack. They are cooled. I've put a piece of parchment paper. You could put wax paper, saran wrap, whatever you want underneath it. And I am just going to just do a nice light drizzle on top. And before it dries,